Okay, we are live. Welcome everybody to the node.js security meeting. I think it's the last one from the year, I guess. Let me check, double check. No,
Wow.
we might have one on 19.
Okay.
Yeah, almost the last one. Um,
Almost.
so before start, does anybody have any announcement? Nope. All right. As usual, we go uh to the vulnerability review. But we have a new attendee, Georges. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Uh, Good morning, everyone. My name is George, and I've been a long time user of Node. So I am a little bit curious and wanted to attend the meeting today. I currently work for a company called TestifySec, which is a startup in the supply chain security uh, arena. So yeah, I do not have any question or anything. I just wanted to join and see how it goes.
Yeah, that's great. Welcome.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, feel free to open your mic or drop a message.
Thank you. Sounds good.
Okay, as usual, we go to the vulnerability review, but first I'm sending in the chat the minutes. Please include your name there. I'm doing it to my name and user. Okay, vulnerability review. I don't think we have anything. Oh, we do have one thing new, which is the someone requested to upgrade Node.js to latest NPM version for 22, but I think that already happened. Let me check. Yes. Oh, no. He's asking for 10.9.1, which I don't know if has been landed on 23 as well. Let me check.
Yeah, we good just to comment there and
Let me check if we have a pull request open to upgrade NPM. Uh, we normally label it with NPM. We have one for 10.9.2, which should be uh, this should solve.
yeah, 10.9. There was one. I just looked that's closed for 10.9.1, right? Was that the
Oh, I didn't see the 10.9.1.
it's
Just
closed there? I just pasted in the chat the issue.
okay.
The question is that actually gone into any releases?
Yeah, actually it went to 23.
Okay.
Uh, it will go to 23. That will be released, I don't know, tomorrow, uh, or next week. Um, and we need to include the LTS watch for 22 to make sure that we will land that. So let me approve the request, and include LTS watch 2022. Yes, I don't know if that affects 18. Let me see which version 18 is using. 10.8.2. And let me see the CVE. Okay. It affects only. Oh, they didn't disclose the vulnerability yet. The CVE at least. Let me drop a message. Okay. Um, that's great. I will approve the fast track. CI has been passed, so I will merge that.
Which one? That's the 9.2 or that's
Yeah,
the,
9.2.
but the 9.1's already in, right? Like,
It's already in, but I think it was not included to uh 22 release because of the baking time of 2 weeks.
sure. Yeah, like, so I just made a comment that says like 10.9 was pulled in 55, but I think it's like there hasn't been a 23 yet either because the the 23.4 that it's mentioned in is still open.
Yeah, it will be released next week, I guess. So technically we haven't fixed it. We haven't landed that,
Yeah.
but we have the fix on main. Okay, so we can keep it on track for I think for 22 and 23 that's okay to be normal. But we might want to issue a release for I don't know the severity or how it affects. I think I can ask it on the issue as well. How it affects Node.js. Should we issue a release for Node.js 20 and 18?
Well, is 10 in those? NPM 10 in
Yep.
those?
Yep.
Okay, then it would need to, yeah. What's unfortunate is we don't have, I don't know a contact at NPM anymore. We could ask like how big or how urgent it is.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I mean, it's a vulnerability in one of the npm dependencies. It's not like a npm uh, CVE.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it would even like it's one of those ones, are they fixing it because it's reported or because it actually affects something?
Yeah, I'm waiting for them to answer. I looking to the issue, I think they just fixed it because of security reports, security scanners, but I don't think it affects npm directly. Um, okay. So OpenSSL has been okay. The other one is the issue 192 on that same repository. And I think we can close because we have released that the OpenSSL fixes to the 22 release line and 23 release line.
Okay, so yeah, if they're all released,
Yeah,
then
closing. The next one is oh oh you open an issue. I was looking. Okay. Um, and there's one that has
did
no
I open?
assessment.
Wait a second. Did I open that? How did that get opened?
Yeah, you open an issue. I think you were.
Not sure, not sure.
Oh, that's weird. You that's the first time I looked to that because if you go to the issue you opened, there is a link to the original issue.
Yeah, like this is, I mean, yeah, like there are links that show back and forth, but why this issue? README file and follows how to ask good question guide. Like
Oh, it's
there
on
must,
the issue description. There is a before you submit, maybe you click it on something. Oh yeah, I know. You there is a checkbox, and if you hover the checkbox, there is a convert to issue button. I think you pressed there
oh,
by mistake.
yeah, okay. So Did not mean to do that.
Mhm. All right. We have the issue 190 that is waiting for an assessment from V8. Uh, I don't think I have an answer for that because this is a CV issued by V8 that was detected on Google Chrome. And it's very hard to assess if that affects Node.js. But I suspect it's the same assessment as 191, which is don't fall in the Node.js threat model. I just not sure if I should include the label now. I don't think they will answer because I pinged them in August. So I would just include that this vulnerability, as most of the V8 ones, don't
Yep.
fall in the Node.js threat model.
Yep. If we confirm that, then yeah, it's a good way to.
Okay. Um, right, moving on. OpenSSF a scorecard monitor review.
Yep, I created the PR, which is the 1411. Let me pass the link in the chat. Also, that will close the issue 1410, which has the list of the most relevant changes in the summary. Most of the changes are not very relevant or are minor, like in terms of, sometimes discrepancies in the checks, but there are two key for us. So one is for Node.js. The one for
Mhm.
Node.js basically is we have a decrease of 0.0, which is not all because of that reason, but mostly because there is a new
Okay. The create release
workflow.
proposal.
Yeah, create race proposal, which is expected to happen, right? Because we expected that to, right? So probably what we need to check it out is how to add an exception to this. So basically saying like, this is known and this is expected, right? So let me see if I can find something. Just to don't get a decrease of scoring here because of that.
I think it will be fixed anyway because we are adapting to not need the permission
Oh, cool.
right anymore. So we will use the GitHub API instead of manually pressing git push dash dash force.
Okay, okay. So that's
So
cool.
I think
Okay.
it will be solved by Ant1 pull request.
Fantastic. So in that case, I will leave it as it is,
Yeah.
and we have a similar thing on the website. Yeah, we have also another PR related to translations that have some high permissions, like grade level permissions, and
Oh,
also there was like some code review decrease it as well, but sometimes happen the same as Node. It's a cyclical thing. So yeah, those are the two main things. Should we check with the website team? But I'm thinking that this translation is expected to behave this way.
Um, I'm just a bit curious because if you go to the Node.js org, you see the token permissions, you see that it decreased minus 10.0. So I'm understanding that if you have like a permission right, you have zero on the score by default. Uh,
Yeah, it's a
is
little
it
bit
that?
extreme.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the,
It's
fir- the first thing that you
either
have a
then,
right is boom.
yeah, either 10 or zero. I don't think we
Yeah.
have a middle.
Yeah. It's a very Boolean thing. You have a great permission, then everything goes to zero. Yeah. Yeah, I think nowadays, I mean, in the case of this of the website, I think it's expected to have that right permission, and I don't think they are going to rethink the GitHub action for that. So probably the idea is maybe to add an acknowledge on this and say like, yeah, this is
Mm-hmm.
something that we have under control, so it's not an alert, and that way we can recover the score.
Okay.
But yeah, let me see if I manage to do that by the next meeting.
Okay. Right.
Fantastic.
Uh, great. Now we go to the Node.js agenda. We have one item. It's a pull request 55201 I sent in the chat. I think YAG is included that, but I don't have much context. So, okay, there's no way to validate correctness. Okay, it's because we are updating Clang CLang format to V19, and this
I think the reason that we were mentioned on that one was it that like
Okay, I can
basically
see
the
that.
suggestion was to like, compile our own or something or, you know, it was like, hey, here's my own copy of Clang versus
Yeah.
coming from a registry. And I think it's like, yeah. So I added it to for just discussion because they'd mentioned the security team and
Mm-hmm. I think we should always prefer to the official packages, to be honest. Uh,
yeah,
unless like there's a strong reason to not do so.
yeah.
Um,
Like what do we like? First of all, what's the
I
first
don't think we can. Uh,
question?
sorry, go ahead.
What's the problem that's trying to be fixed would be my first question.
Yeah, it's not clear for me. Uh, I think it's just an upgrade of Silang format, but I think there are some. Okay. Right. They suggested to transfer the repository to the Node.js group, but I don't think we want. I mean, it's not clear for us the problem we are solving. So it's fair to comment on the issue that the team discussed, and it's not clear for us which problem are we solving, and that needs a new package or a different package uh, in the Node.js core.
Yeah, I think it would be like we could comment like we definitely agree that we should not be using a tool pulled in and built from somebody's private repo, right? Like,
Yep.
so if we're to use a custom version, we should probably have a fork in the node repo, but it's unclear that, what problem we're solving here, right? Like, okay, it's a newer version. I guess Targos was already working on it, so like maybe we do want a new version,
Yeah.
but you know, there's no other context that says like, hey, here's the problem and why we need a new version. And
Okay. Would you like to comment?
sure, yeah, here I'll say we discussed in the security work group meeting today. One, we agreed that we should not be pulling in tools built, stored in somebody's personal repos. Two, it's not clear how important getting an update to okay, is. I'm going to ask Michael Zasso, what do you think the priority is on this and what is the right way to do it? So we'll ask Michael what his opinion is. What's the priority and what's the right way to do it, right?
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
The next one is, let me just provide some, we left a comment in the issue and removed from the agenda. The next one is the add the Windows integration for policies to Node.js. I think the Microsoft folks didn't join today, I think I left all the comments in the pull request, so I think we can skip this issue for this meeting. But basically, one thing that I'm very concerned is that most of the APIs that checks if a file has access to read or to execute, it will make a synchronous call to the Windows API. And when you make this synchronous call, imagine that when you try to require a module or when you try to read from any file, it will block the event loop because of the synchronous operation. It doesn't work with libuv, obviously, because it's not cross-platform. So although we could agree that it's okay to have that limitation, I don't think that would be usable. Like no one will use that on Node.js because this will make their apps extremely slow or extremely blocking.
I guess it's how fast that call is going to be, right? Like, what all does that call do? If it's basically checking a bit or something, then it'd be fast. But if it's doing a whole bunch of things,
Yeah, my only concern is that even if that's quite fast, we will do that for every module that we require, for every dependency, because we perform a synchronous call.
requires are probably like there's probably quite a lot going on. So it really would come down to like, what's the ratio of that to everything else in terms of, because a require would potentially require reads from the disk. It's going to require a bunch.
Yeah, but it does the read from the disk asynchronously, so it won't block the execution of your app. So once we change it to do everything synchronously, I mean we could test.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I think it'll come down to like the other thing too is that would be startup, right? It wouldn't necessarily affect
yeah,
your execution. So I think it's a valid concern, performance in terms of the one that I would have, like if people turn it off, does it become a no-op? So like it doesn't, it's only if you turn it on, then I'm a little less concerned because people who turn it on, then, if they really want the security, they take the performance overhead, right? And that's just the way it goes.
okay. And the other concern was that some APIs they are using might not be supported by all the Windows versions Node.js supports.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing to validate, right? Because
Yeah, I have pinged the built-in and the platform windows, but they didn't answer yet. Uh, in any case, I will leave this pull request on the agenda in case they join the next meeting, and then we can discuss it further.
sounds good.
Okay. Skip waiting for what is the name? Is I don't know the name. I will put the handle. Okay. Security working group repository now. The first one is adding a warning to end of life versions. I think we have discussed it asynchronously, but not in a meeting. Marco was talking with me that would be great to issue CVEs when we issue a security release. Would be great to also issue the CVE for end of life versions. I told him that that would not be accurate because we can't pass other versions and some reports might not even consider end-of-life versions. So even if you test that on an end-of-life version and it tells you, okay, the attack didn't pass, it doesn't mean you are safe, right? So another approach we came up was, what about issuing a single CVE for end-of-life versions of Node.js? So, and looks like we have an agreement by looking to the issue. I had a meeting with Robin Monday or Tuesday, I don't remember. And would be great. And she told me that would be great to first announce what we are going to do on a Node.js social, and also include that to the OpenJS health report they are about to send. So I have pinged Robin to provide some information, but I will ping her on Slack too. Hey Robin, can you provide some details here? Right.
Yeah, I think like messaging it. I think also maybe like a PR to PR it into the security release process, right? Because it would be as part of a security release if they're, basically look at end of life versions if they don't already have that CVE.
Yeah. We can
Sure.
create that. Let me put on my backlog. I can for sure do that.
But yeah, the social stuff to get
Update
people a heads up.
security release process to also check if needs to issue a CV for end of life. Okay. And we all agree that wouldn't hurt to issue the CV for end of life versions, right? A single one.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea in terms of not hurting. It might cause some people some
Yeah,
grief, but it's probably the right thing to do in terms of like it is end of life, it is quite likely vulnerable. So people seeing and having to justify the CV, it seems like the right thing.
Yeah. And what about the warning? Because this issue, we mentioned two approaches, and they can all go together. The first one is more safe, I would say. I don't know, which is issuing the CV, and the other one that is to release a patch version of each end of life version 1 month after it goes to end of life, and emit a warning whenever you run Node.js, just a single warning. Oh, you are running an unsafe version of Node.js, because CVEs will be only caught by security scanners. If they don't use that, they won't receive anything. They keep using. If we release a patch version with just this warning 1 month after the version became end of life, they will receive that notification right away. And also, they can always omit that warning with us that security revert, or no warnings that would apply as well.
Yeah, like I think the CV in my mind will likely be more effective because like people who don't update, maybe they're not going to update at all, right? Like they're not necessarily going to say, I'm going to take the next version of the point one, right? Like if I'm running on an end of life one, I just don't want to change anything. So I can see it being less likely. And my other side is it's going to be more work to do a release. So like I don't mind if people want to volunteer and do a release to do that. I do worry though that if we set the expectation and we stop doing it because we don't have volunteers to do it, it's the extra work versus the reward is the thing I would consider.
Yeah,
I think it will add a little bit, but go ahead.
yeah, I just thought about that because I would say that less than 20% of users really read security scanners. And particularly if you are using an outdated version of Node.js with a lot of security vulnerabilities, you are also running on the developer machine, so that there is no production space on that, and you can be vulnerable to a lot of attacks. And for instance, I use ZSH on my terminal. When they release a new version or when I'm using a really outdated version, something is printed to my console the first time I initialize it, telling, oh, you must upgrade because you are in danger or something like that.
But did
Uh,
you upgrade it to get that one? Like this takes the like somebody has to actively update to the latest one to
okay.
get the newer version, right?
Yeah, but what usually happens is that think people points to they don't pin the Node.js version on the patch level. They might pin on the major and the minor, but the patch is less likely because usually it goes only fixes, right? And
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
although it might not affect all the users as expect, as you pointed out, I think it also get a good portion of users as well as the CVE. And I think both together will make the graph of Node.js downloads in outdated version to decrease a lot.
I have another idea, but Ulysses has his hand up, so I'll let him go first.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah, I have to say, like, I think that CVs work perfectly fine for like corporate environment and people who has like high security standards kind of things, but a lot of developers doesn't pay attention to that. And I think the idea of the warning might work pretty well, for example, for environments where the developers are not very used to work with Node.js and they are not super familiar with the how the schedule works in terms of releases. So I think very similar to the people who just use Ubuntu and forget about how the JS code works and doesn't understand really when it's LTS finishing stuff. So I think that doesn't happen with Node because it becomes like so extended tool. Like even if you are doing like PHP as your main thing, you might need Node.js for preparing your front end or whatever, right? So basically, there are a lot of chances that you have this tool there for JS and you don't forget to upgrade unless you need a new feature or something, right? Or you have some compatibility issues with the library. So having this warning might help people. So also having like in a format, following whatever formats other languages / systems, whatever are using, because some people have this kind of stuff in the CI, say like for outdated warnings, insecure, these kind of words. So they basically bring alerts later on. So I think that might be useful for people who are not super familiar with the release cycle, which is a huge, a huge amount of people outside of our cycles, I guess.
So now my new idea, which is instead of doing a new release, let's bake it into the releases from the very beginning. We know when it's going to go end of life in that we've,
Uh,
and basically have it set so that once it passes a certain time, it will emit that warning.
yeah, I thought about that, but the thing is, it's not, I don't think it's accurate to trust on the system time to emit this warning
I don't
because
know. I think as a trade-off, like not having to do a release, like actually I see a couple of good things. Like one, if I don't up my release, like I don't need to update. I'm running a version. I install one version of Node, I run it forever. At some point in time, I'm going to start getting this warning. Now, I guess I've just thought of the downside, like that could break people too, which
yeah, and the problem is that let's say that once we include that to the call to the Node.js and release that version, if for some reason or delay we delay the next release or we change the release dates for some reason because that happens, people will receive the warning and we won't have a new version. And there is no way for them to to know exactly the new date because that's hard coded in their code.
yeah, we haven't changed the end of life date for like 8 years though. So I think the bigger problem I'd have is like somebody's running in production, they know they've got an end of life. You don't want to necessarily break them like a running production thing by changing behavior. So that
Yeah, because it's way easier to roll back a release, to roll back like if they upgrade Node.js to a new patch version, it's way easier to roll back to hide the warning than
or they might see it in testing.
yeah. And also uh imagine that you are running we are changing the behavior of a fixed release line based on time. I mean, I
I
can
think I'm
see.
convinced based on the, like, I don't want people in production to have things fall over when it hits a time. Sorry, Ulysses, go ahead.
Yeah, also to depend on system time, which might not be accurate if, for example, you're working like in offline environments where they cannot have this server time where you get this when you by default, right? So when you install Linux or whatever. And then the thing is like you are living in most of the people in the 70s, right? So basically, if you don't need accurate time, you forget about this and this measure won't work. But it is a minority, obviously, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, but that's tricky. I think it is a little bit tricky here. Also, if we change the policy on extending, for example, which never happened like in the last 8 years, right? But if we, for example, get some kind of sponsorships to extend in certain times or making LTS longer or whatever, we are tied to. It's going to be hard for some people to, you know, retroactively know that without getting the new version of Node.js for their minor or for the major. So yeah, that's hard coding is tricky. I think we might lose Michael.
I'm writing the docs, the minutes, unless it's okay. He sent back in 2 minutes. I think he's just sent the message directly to me. Uh, that's fine. Okay, so I mean the warning. I think we don't need to work on the warning approach now. But would be great to have it on mind in case of the CVs didn't affect anything. I think we can plan like the step one issue CVEs, and then the step two think about emitting a warning, and that we can only do that for Node.js 18 that will go end of life in April and test it.
Yeah.
If that works well, we moving on and do it for 20, 23, and so on.
Yeah, and we have plenty of time to discuss this with the TC and TSC and other people. So yeah.
Yep. Okay. Um, let me see. We have the maintenance threat model, but it usually takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
So let's see if we have another one to discuss. We have the abort when vulnerable issue, the 852, but I don't think it should be in the agenda anymore. We have included it on the ambassador amplify list, so it's done. So I think I will remove it from the agenda.
Fantastic.
Let me check. Okay.
Sorry, I'm just back. The extend security reporting for LTS lines, is that one like that's
No,
kind of
no.
replaced?
We are talking about the 852
Yeah.
abort and vulnerable. I just removed it from the agenda because we have included the is my node vulnerable to the ambassador list. So I think that's a good step, and no need to discuss it to include to Node.js because it's very complex or unlikely to include a remote call natively to Node.js. So the outs build for dependencies.
Yeah, so I can say the three dependencies used WASM now use the common container. WASM builder container. And then the next step that I want to work on that's in there is to look at the CGS module Lexer and the Amero to make sure that they actually, like, we have everything we need to build the WASM and the rest of the stuff in the deps directory in Node. So that, like, in terms of like knowing what went into a particular release, you don't need to rely on an external repository. That's already the case, I'm pretty sure, for Indici, unless something's changed. So it'll be potentially some updates to the updaters.
Okay, great. The next one is extend security reporting of LLTS line beyond their lifetimes. I think that it's pretty much what we have discussed on and why we came up with the idea of issuing a CVE for end of life versions, a single one, but not checking it with existing reports or new security releases. So I left all my thoughts there. I think we should wait for Marco to join as he reopened that issue and wanted to discuss.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, but I
Yeah.
think I think this is kind of replaced by the ideas of like the CVE and the warning. So, but good to have Marco to say, yeah, that is the case or not.
Okay. Next one, automate security releases, security release process. So I did a lot of stuff on that. I'm happy to share that. I mean, most of the security release automation also fall in the release automation. So if you want to make security release more fast, you also need to make the release more fast. I have wrote, if you look to the linked pull request, you see a lot of requests I opened. But the last one is create a release proposal action to Node.js core. And the Node.js 22 and Node.js 23 were created completely automated by this action. So this action basically creates the proposal, sync the branches, and create it to the Node.js repository. So it was opened, and we are iterating on that. And Hui is working on making the staging branch up to date. So that action will also open comment on the pull request that if the pull request didn't land cleanly and request a backport. So it will be all automated. So
Nice.
I'm happy that it finally becoming a thing. And I have also wrote some pull requests to Node core issues to automate a few of the release steps, the security release steps. So I don't know if I have linked, but this one is the last one I wrote. I sent in the chat. So now, when you create a security release, you just need to pass the Node.js or repository, and it will automatically update the banner and also create the pre-release announcement, also the post-release announcement, syncing with HackerOne. So once you provide the summary in the HackerOne, it will read from that, create the blog posts, the pre and post, and also update the website banner according to our schedule of 7 days. So I can see the time of issuing a new security release and measure the time I will spend on the steps. So I think that would be great. So the automation of security release is moving very fast, and I think would be great to have someone doing the next security release with me just to measure the impact.
Yeah, like I think we have the people on the security steward list that would be good to pull
Yeah,
one.
the next one is Brian
Yeah.
from Red Hat.
So maybe, basically have them act as a security steward with you helping them and with the automation and stuff, just to
Yeah.
see, like, they might have some good questions for you, or they might push the wrong buttons and see what
Yeah.
happens, right?
What I'm thinking is to record a video and have it shared privately
Yep.
on Node.js on the secret release repository so they can see how the process work in any case
Yeah,
as
that
well.
would be a good way to ramp them up as well.
Okay. So good progress. Yes, and the next one is the Node.js maintainer threat model. I haven't joined this meeting for the last two because of some personal issues. So I don't know which state are we on this document.
We've
Do we
been
have any
slowly
update?
working through the sections. Like I think we worked through another one of the, like on the threat model side, not the threat model. Like we had the people, now we were working on like the next section, which was like I guess it's the threats, like, somebody getting malicious code into the code base, right? And I think then there was, and mapping that to like, who can do that based on what access they have.
Yeah, we did also for the CI, right? It's like people who can make changes on the repo, people who might pollute the CI. And I think we were like discussing on additional things like, using the social media accounts, for example, to promote malicious links or
Mm,
things like that, right? So
okay, we
more
are in the
edge
threats.
cases. And I think also we have something pending to discuss for the Alpine images and I mean the official Docker images as well. And yeah, some more edge cases, but I think the two major ones are covered.
I think we won't have time to get the context and start
No, not
Yeah,
definitely.
writing
I'd
that.
say we should skip till
Yeah.
next time because like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. The first table, which is access per group, we can I think we don't need to do all together. I think we can land
Yep.
this table first, maybe open an issue and like deliver a few things instead of a big document so people want to read
Yep.
Yep.
a review. So I can take a look on that and open the request.
Even it might
So
make sense to open that, like include that and the first one that's done, just so that people can see how it maps,
okay, makes
and
sense.
say that we're still working on the things, but like, here's an example. You got the people, you got how that relates to the
Hmm.
thing, and then,
That makes sense for me.
yeah, okay.
Yep.
Okay. So that's it. Thank you for joining. Georges, thank you for joining as well. Feel free to join our next meeting in 2 weeks. And if you have any question, we have a channel on OpenJS Foundation Slack. It's a security working group channel. And yeah, feel free to ping us in any case.
Thank you. I really appreciate you guys letting